From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.
All right. So there were a couple of things that were against me. I'm Skip Elsheimer. This is the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. And so I was running the assembly line sleep machine over the weekend, another series of tests. And I muted everything except for certain sounds and forgot to unmute them. So that's why. So then I was caught up doing that, and I didn't realize that I had not resized and made Contortionist live. All sorts of problems. Anyways, what I had said about Bronx Morning was that those urban scenes of life reminded me of the film that we watched last night called All That Breathes, which is a documentary about these two brothers in New Delhi who are trying to rehabilitate these raptors in the city, and just the scenes. Just don't spoil it. But the first 5 minutes of that film is insane. So I totally recommend it. And it just, at some point we were like, is this a documentary? Like, what's going on? Like, it seemed like it was an indie film, like a narrative, but it really is a documentary. So anyways, I totally recommend that. Okay, now you can hear me. Let's see. Let's watch Life Story of the Crayfish. Speaking of life, enjoy.
Crayfish are common animals in many countries of the world. They live in or near fresh water. You can find them in streams, in swamps, and lakes. Some crayfish live in water all of their lives. Others spend part or all of their lives in burrows in the banks of streams and other moist places. Crayfish belong to a class of animals called crustaceans. Crustaceans, in turn, are members of a still larger group of animals called arthropods. All arthropods are jointed-legged. Insects, such as the grasshopper and the bee, the millipedes, centipedes, and the arachnids, such as the spider and the king crab of the sea, are all arthropods. The crayfish looks like a small lobster and is about 6 inches long. Its color usually blends in with its surroundings. Like other arthropods, the crayfish has a hard outer covering, or shell, called the exoskeleton. This is good protection against many enemies. The shell is divided into sections, or segments. The segments can be seen clearly in the tail. Each segment of the body has a pair of jointed structures that perform a particular job, such as seeing, tearing, or walking. For example, the eyes are one pair of structures. The eyes are on stalks and can be moved in all directions. The crayfish has 2 pairs of feelers, or antennae. These are sensory organs like the eyes. On the underside of the head are 6 pairs of mouth parts, which tear the food, break it up into tiny pieces for swallowing, and put it into the mouth. The crayfish has 5 pairs of legs. The first pair are large claws. They are used as weapons and for seizing prey. The other 4 pairs are for walking. The tail of the crayfish is really its abdomen. Attached to the underside of the tail are small structures called swimmerets, to which the female attaches her eggs. At the end of the tail is the flipper that the crayfish uses for rapid backward movement. This crayfish has lost one claw in a fight with another crayfish. Crayfish have the power of regenerating lost parts. It will grow another claw from this stump. An aquarium is a good place to learn how crayfish live. The aquarium should be arranged as much as possible like the creek where the crayfish lived. Another good way to observe crayfish is in a shallow tray containing moist sand. Crayfish can breathe out of water if their gills are kept moist. This crayfish moves around cautiously at first as it becomes used to its new surroundings. The 4 pairs of walking legs enable the crayfish to go backward, forward, and sideways. The gills of the crayfish are located under these chest coverings. Water, containing oxygen, enters the gill cavity here and leaves here. The crayfish's legs are attached to the gills. When the legs move, the gills move and stir up the water in the respiratory cavity. Now let's watch this crayfish's reaction to a strange object. The crayfish eyes the pencil approaching it. It backs away. This crayfish reacts to the pencil by using its claws to defend itself against it. Crayfish seldom kill other animals, and only do so when there is no other food to eat. This crayfish seems to be hungry. Its claws tear the food. Then its mouth parts chew it up and stuff it in. The crayfish is largely a scavenger. That is, it consumes dead and decaying plant and animal life. It, in turn, is eaten by other animals. Bullfrogs consume a large number of crayfish. So do some of the larger animals, such as this raccoon. And birds, such as this heron. It isn't easy to distinguish a male crayfish from a female. Mating usually takes place in the autumn. Later, when the warm days of spring appear, the female lays her eggs and attaches them to the swimmerets on the underside of her tail with a gluey substance. The eggs look like berries. A female with eggs is said to be in berry. When first laid, the eggs are dark. As they begin to develop, they become lighter in color. Here, movement within the growing embryos can be detected. In this closer view, the pairs of tiny black spots are the developing eyes. After hatching, the young crayfish will stay with the mother for about a month. Here is a young crayfish. Shortly, it will shed its outer covering in a process called molting and become a little larger. This is followed by several more moltings. When full grown, the crayfish will molt from 2 to 4 more times in its 2-year lifespan. Watch how it emerges from its old shell. After each molting, it will be a little larger than it was before. The crayfish has many crustacean relatives. One of these is the lobster, which may reach a length of 24 inches. Others, such as fairy shrimps and cyclops, are microscopic in size. The colorful and edible rock crab, the amusing and common fiddler crab, and the hermit crab, which takes the shell of another sea animal for its home, are also close relatives of the crayfish. The class has learned much about the crayfish by observing and recording their findings. Find out how much you have learned by answering these questions. What are the functions of some of the parts of the crayfish? How do the legs of the crayfish aid in breathing? How do crayfish reproduce and develop? Why can't the crayfish grow without molting?
So many. All right. Everybody can hear me, right? Just give me a sanity check. It seemed like there was some comments that were off a little bit that made me think like, okay, maybe I'm not being heard. Okay, sweet. So crayfish, crawdads, mud. There's another one of them. There's quite a few slang terms for those types of animals, but yeah, we've shown other life story of earthworm, etc. Now let's learn about elephant babies. Enjoy.
This is the rainforest country of Mysore in southern India, a country of large rivers, swamps, dense tropical growth, or the country of elephants. The story we are going to tell you concerns this little elephant baby.
Kalyani!
Raman is in the forest looking for Kalyani, the mother elephant, who had been let out into the forest to have her baby.
Kalyani!
Raman's father put a bell around Kalyani's neck so that she can be heard from far away. Raman is shouting her name in all directions to make sure the elephant will hear him, for a frightened elephant can be very dangerous. Mother elephant knows Raman, for she belongs to Raman's father. I'll call him Cheria, says Raman. Cheria means little one. Elephant babies nurse several times a day. An elephant baby drinks up to 3 gallons of milk, and that is 36 glasses of milk a day. Elephant's milk is the richest of all animal milk. It is time to go back to the village. The mother elephant is a well-trained worker. She obeys Ram. With his knees and toes, he steers her out of the jungle. They walk slowly so that baby Cheria won't drop behind. All the elephants and all the men of Raman's village make their living from the teakwood which grows in the rainforest. Only elephants are strong enough to move the heavy teak, which is a hardwood that won't rot. Elephants are taught to perform many kinds of jobs. Raman's father is a foreman. When he does not ride his bull elephant, he directs the work of others. As soon as he spots Raman and Cheria, Father Krishnan walks over to see the baby elephant. Krishnan is pleased because the little elephant looks so strong and healthy. It is hard to believe that this small, playful baby elephant will someday be as big and strong as the bull elephant that Krishnan is handling. When a mother elephant comes back to camp, she is spared heavy work as long as she nurses the baby. While the others still work, Raman takes Kalyani and her baby to the river.
the favorite resting place for elephants and for their mahouds. Cheria must have bathed with his mother before, because the baby wades merrily into the stream. But the river serves for more than bathing. The logs from the camp are pulled down to the river. The river is the only highway to the outside world. Elephants and their keepers look forward to their evening bath. The elephants need bathing not only because of the heat, but because their skin is dry and would crack unless it were soaked frequently. The elephant baby and his mother return to the village. Cheria is joining the herd. A classroom for elephants. Cheria is 5 years older. It is time for him to go to school. An elephant classroom is made of strong bamboo poles with just enough space for a young elephant. An old and trained elephant helps to keep discipline. Raman's brother Kopal will be Cheria's mahoud. With all his strength, he tries to move the new student into the classroom. But only the strong old elephant can force Cheria to obey. It takes time and patience to train an elephant. Even a young elephant is quite strong. So for his own safety and the safety of the mahouds, he has to be kept behind closed gates and chained to a post. Usually it takes 3 people to train an elephant, 1 for handling the rope and 2 riders. Cheria has never felt weight on his back, so he bucks like a bronco. To you, this may seem like a tame bronco busting, but remember, an elephant is more dangerous than a horse. Every time, Cheria is calmed down with a banana. One rider follows another. Gradually, Cheria recognizes that no one will harm him, and he likes to be rewarded for good work. After a few weeks, he is ready for the teakwood block. This means down. This sound means up. As you see, the heavy wood does the trick of forcing the elephant down or permitting him to get up. Only after many exercises can Kopal climb up and give the command. Ejunel kuka, up. Iru kuka, down. Cheria obeys. What a happy day for the young mahoud when he sees that his elephant understands his command. Good food and good treatment help Cheria grow rapidly. Today he will have his first serious test. Kopal is dressing up for the occasion. A tiger has been sighted near the lumber camp. The village elders are organizing a hunt to free the lumber camp from danger. Cheria will have to prove himself today. The old elephants lead the way. boys of the beaters will chase the tiger in the direction of the hunters. The young elephant behaved well. The tiger is dead. The lumber camp is safe again. The elephants return to work. Cheria, the little one, is now Komban Ana, a working elephant. Not yet fully grown and powerful like the old tuskers, but already big enough to do a full share of work and earn a living for himself and for his master.
I'm going through my database and the databases of others and creating a new website called 16mm Filmography, and I'll put it in the comments. And what this is I'm trying to create a listing of every 16mm film that exists and who has it, and trying to coordinate with some of the big 16mm archives out in the world, and including us, and also with other collectors and people who do YouTube channels as well, to try to get a sense of what's out there. But one of the things I noticed is educational filmmakers love animal baby films. There are so many different animal baby films. And there's like Zoo Babies from our storybook. Zoo Babies Wake Up. All these different things that are, I guess kids just love looking at little baby animals. And so Elephant Baby would definitely fit that weird genre. Let's see, there's chatter about Topsy being electrocuted, elephants being electrocuted for going on rampages, and I think Edison, you can find that on YouTube pretty easily. I think it's actually part of the paper print collection. So basically it was submitted for copyright, and then the original film deteriorated, but the paper print existed and somebody was able to make a print from that. Let's see, what do we got? I have a film set up on the scanner, and this is Black History Month is winding down tomorrow, but this is a fascinating film, and it might not seem like it's Black History, but it really is. This came from South Carolina, and this is a film that was made by the state government to talk about how they are working hard to make segregated black schools, or Negro schools as they say, just as good as the white schools. So this is definitely of a time, and really kind of, this early segregationist, well, not early segregationist, I mean, it's not that long ago. But anyways, this is a look at what was happening at that time. And I think that this was created to show, like, hey, this is what we're spending our money on. Look how progressive South Carolina is, ironically. All right, so here is For These Our Children. Enjoy.
You're looking at a prominent South Carolinian. His name is Billy. He's a 7th grader this year. Because of Billy and thousands of boys and girls like him, the state of South Carolina has been the site of an educational revolution. The entire state school system, serving more than 500,000 children, has undergone vast changes and drastic reorganization. In less than 6 years, more has been done for public schools in South Carolina than was accomplished in any other similar period in the state's history. As one example, enough new classrooms have been built to accommodate 250,000 children, all in 5 years. And the results of these physical changes have been and will continue to be felt in all phases of education for years to come. Before and during World War II, South Carolina schools were like those in many other states today. In fact, worse than average. Many were overcrowded, some even operating on double shifts. Underpaid, overworked teachers struggled to maintain order in ancient buildings with bad lighting, leaky roofs, worn-out furniture, bad floors. The sad plight of South Carolina schools began with the National Depression of 1929. South Carolina was hard hit. The state's textile mills curtailed operations. Some even shut down for long, uncertain periods. Farmers had little market for their staple crop, cotton, and so the cotton withered in the fields. Thousands were jobless, and the hill people sang a plaintive ballad.
With 10-cent cotton and 40-cent meat, how in the world can a poor man eat?
Especially in rural areas, older boys and girls dropped out of school hoping to find work. Younger children were kept home because they lacked shoes and clothing. Communities found it more and more difficult to pay teachers' salaries with dwindling tax receipts. Many teachers had to seek other work. Repairs to school plants were meager indeed. Then came World War II, and the school situation became even worse. The state's manpower went to the armed forces and to war industries. Material shortages, aggravated by the war, further limited school expansion and repair. By the time the war was over, many rural schools had deteriorated into miserable shacks, unfit for human use. In buildings such as these, one teacher strove to maintain order and instill knowledge in 30 to 40 children, ranging in age from 6 to 16 years. Students built lean-to sheds to serve as cafeterias. Outdoor toilets contributed to the spread of disease, as did drinking water drawn from tumble-down wells in the schoolyard. Urban schools were, of course, in better shape physically, but many were old, badly designed, ill-heated, poorly lighted. Typical of general conditions of the state was Abbeville County in the rolling Piedmont Hills. By 1950, Abbeville County had more than 5,000 children enrolled in its 58 schools, staffed by 191 teachers. There were only 12 school buses and 12 private cars whose owners had contracted to drive a few remote youngsters to school each day. Annual salaries for teachers ranged from an unbelievable low of $700 to a maximum high of $1,900. The administrative organization of schools in Abbeville County was a hodgepodge and was typical of the situation in other parts of the state. The county was divided into 27 school districts, each district governed by a board of trustees, some appointed, some elected. And since there were 27 school districts in the county operating without coordination, there was no possibility of planning a program for all the pupils of the county. School districts operating elementary schools were independent of the district operating high schools. Under these conditions, which were typical, there was no authority to plan the improvement of the educational program as a whole, To learn anything about the economics of county school operation for decades back, it was necessary to look up original claims filed by dozens of different individuals. Obviously, a more businesslike arrangement was called for. The creaking, groaning school system, the impossibility of modernization on local funds alone, and the ever louder complaints of parents were having their impact in the state capitol. In January of 1950, then-Governor Strom Thurmond called on the legislature to investigate the school situation and said that additional revenues would have to be found for our school system. A legislative committee was chosen to look into the matter. The committee, headed by Representative Ernest Hollings, after intensive study and consultation with many educators, such as Mr. G.C. Frampton, the superintendent of schools of Charleston County, recommended that the state come to the rescue of the districts by providing aid for school construction, and also recommended a program of school district reorganization and state-supervised transportation. This recommendation and supplementary legislation was heartily endorsed by incoming Governor James F. Burns.
When I resigned as Secretary of State, I fully intended never again to serve in public office. However, a study of our school situation impressed me with the inadequacies of the system and with the inequalities existing between rural and urban schools and between schools for white and colored pupils. An ambition to change that condition caused me to return to public office in 1950. When inaugurated as governor, I advocated a bond issue of $75 million and the levying of a sales tax of 3% for the purpose of equalizing school facilities. I said then, it is our duty to provide for the races substantial equality in school facilities. We should do it because it is right. For me, that is sufficient. Of the first $75 million, 70% was allocated to Negro schools, even though the Negro school enrollment constituted but 39% of the total enrollment. Subsequently, the bond issue was increased to $137 million. It was supplemented by local funds. In every school district, Negroes now have one high school and more than one elementary school. On the whole, the Negro school buildings are superior to the white school buildings because they are modern. Today I am proud that notwithstanding the relatively low per capita income of our people, our school facilities for white and colored students compare favorably with those of any state of the Union.
This new law created a state educational finance commission to promote the improvement of the school system and the physical facilities of same, to modernize the public school system, to issue bonds and to secure funds for building, and to assume responsibility for transporting students. The commission was appointed in April of '51. It selected Dr. E.R. Crow, one of the state's outstanding educators, as its director. Dr. Crow, in turn, named Assistant Director Patrick C. Smith, who is in charge of financial accounting, W.B. Sutherland, Supervisor of Schoolhouse Planning, and Ralph A. Durham, Supervisor of Transportation.
The State Educational Finance Commission held its first meeting on April the 30th, 1951. Since that time, it has allocated to school districts for building purposes some $171 million. And with this amount, enough classrooms have been built to seat more than half the state's school children. This is an achievement unprecedented in the history of this or of any other state. This has been done with an annual appropriation of $20 per pupil per year. For the year 1955-56, this was approximately 21% of the revenue from the sales tax. If the school districts should bond themselves to secure the amounts provided by the state for school building purposes, it would require an average tax rate of 19 7/10 mils to retire the indebtedness.
One of the most important results of the school building program has been the elimination of small school districts and the consolidation of schools. As a result, pupils in rural areas henceforth will have educational advantages equal to those living in cities and towns. And improved educational administration should result in better educational achievement. The Educational Finance Commission has discharged its duties fearlessly and without regard to political considerations. The achievements of these 5 years have been made possible by the cooperation of local school officials and local communities. And finally, it should be noted, it has been the General Assembly which has been responsible for this, the state's most serious effort to educate all its children.
When the Commission allocated funds for the new school program, the revolution was underway. The state's architects and contractors threw themselves wholeheartedly into the project, and a building program began. The quiet southern air reverberated with the rattle of jackhammers, drills, power shovels, and the shouts of laborers, plasterers, bricklayers, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, steel erection workers, and a host of others of the state's most skilled men and women. In a room of the Educational Finance Commission's office in Columbia are several tons of blueprints and working drawings representing an astronomical number of man-hours of plans and dreams of radically new buildings and of more conservative structures. Somewhere in South Carolina today stand the structures depicted by each of these sets of blueprints. In the country, in small towns and large cities, from the Blue Ridge foothills to the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. No area has been slighted. Each has received new schools, new buildings, renovation and modernization, according to its needs and within the bounds of available local funds and those dispersed by the Educational Finance Commission. It is significant that despite the speed with which the school building program has progressed, the dictates of beauty, utility, and other phases of good design were not ignored. Eloquent testimony to the interest and cooperation of South Carolina's architects and building contractors is the large number of national award-winning school plats, such as this one in the small community of Wagner. Located on spacious rolling grounds with plenty of room for future expansion, the school embodies all the fine concepts of modern architecture and its relationship to use. It was one of 6 in the nation given design award citations in a national competition. Early in 1951, the Abbeville County Board of Education consolidated 27 school districts throughout the county into one and employed Dr. Ellison M. Smith as administrative superintendent of Abbeville schools. Dr. Smith, former director of the state's teacher certification program, made plant consolidation and improvement of existing school buildings his first aim. He believed that successful school operation could be accomplished only with the informed cooperation of teachers and parents, and placed budget records and disbursement charts on permanent display in his office for all to see. Visits from interested citizens were always welcome, and he inaugurated monthly newsletters to trustees, faculty, and PTA members. Dr. Smith's wide-open policy attracted cooperation during the consolidation process, and by 1955, 33 elementary schools were combined into 11. 10 high schools were concentrated into 4. In 4 years' time, all Abbeville schools had central heating, cafeterias, libraries, and were provided with home economics, agricultural and science classrooms. Schoolyards were cleared and planted. School shops turned out shelves and storage cabinets for classrooms. Dr. Smith also keeps an eye on the future. With approval of the Abbeville Board of Education, he has arranged purchases of sites adjoining school properties, leveled them, and made playgrounds and athletic fields, and planted lawns. When necessary, building expansion can proceed without delay. Changes within school organizational setups have been tremendous. In 1951, there were 1,221 school districts. Today, as a result of reorganization, there are 106. More than 1,000 small schools where physical facilities were the poorest and educational results most meager have been eliminated. Those few remaining are rapidly being consolidated into larger plants. The third revolutionary maneuver executed by the South Carolina Educational Finance Commission ran into some opposition. It involved the school bus transportation system, long operated by local districts. Each district employed its own bus drivers out of its own operational fund, and in some rural districts the low-salaried job became a political grant to be handed out anew each time a county election was held. The state's lawmakers passed legislation transferring maintenance of school buses to the State Highway Department. Conferences between Dr. Crow and Chief Highway Commissioner C.R. McMillan resulted in rapid mobilization of the Highway Department's experts, and the largest mass driver training program in the state's history was begun. The new school bus drivers were junior and senior high school students with good records, and they were complete the driver training courses operated by the Highway Department. They were to be paid $25 a month for their services. Within 4 months, highway patrolmen and driver training experts of the American Automobile Association trained and certified more than 3,000 student drivers. These new bus drivers receive intensive classroom instruction in both driving and bus maintenance, and then pass rigorous field tests before being eligible for employment. A lot of opposition to student drivers was based on the belief that teenagers were reckless, dangerous drivers. But the Highway Department's records show that South Carolina student drivers have established one of the nation's best school bus driving records. Today, with 4,000 school buses transporting 250,000 South Carolina children to and from school each day, the transportation program costs about 1/3 less per child than it did 5 years ago, when there were 2,200 buses carrying 140,000 students. Duplication of bus routes has been eliminated, and more efficient purchasing methods have resulted in lower cost. Abbeville, of course, got new school buses according to its population. Today, 47 well-kept county buses transport around 2,500 boys and girls to Abbeville schools. The Abbeville school picture since 1951 includes workshops for parents and teachers, resulting in a greater interest in the school's welfare. And where active interest in advanced education was lacking in many citizens in the past, now a clear, unlimited horizon of opportunity presents itself, and with it, the inevitable signs of economic betterment. To date, almost $2 million has been spent in this county alone to construct 4 new schools and to renovate and remodel 11 others. In some cases, entire new wings were built, containing as many classrooms as the existing building. In other cases, the repairs were relatively minor. Some building and improvement remains to be made, but it is small compared to the desperate needs that existed before. When the program, now nearly 90% complete, is finished, Abbeville County will be prepared to meet basic educational needs for the next decade. While South Carolina's rural schools have undergone tremendous changes, the urban problem, while different in many respects, was quite serious and equally difficult to solve. Since World War II, the South, and especially South Carolina, has been the scene of the greatest industrial development in the nation's history. Hundreds of plants have built in this area, and with them have come thousands of new people and new families. South Carolina educational authorities are aware of the fact that school facilities are a vital concern to industrialists in terms of available educated labor. It is probable that South Carolina's rapidly expanding school system has played a part in the industrial trek to the state. South Carolina's larger cities are burgeoning, sprawling, spreading, expanding into the peaceful countryside. And for the past 5 years, thousands of war babies have entered city schools. The national birth rate is still soaring, and there will be thousands of new first graders for every year in the foreseeable future. The urban school problem, therefore, is a matter of space, of keeping up with a fantastic demand for more physical facilities. Since 1950, the total school population in Columbia, South Carolina's largest city, has increased from a total enrollment of 18,000 to more than 25,000. Many city schools, too, were old and in bad repair when World War II started. After the war, demands were greater than ever. Columbia was barely able to squeeze in the 1951-52 enrollment of pupils until the Educational Finance Commission's allocation made it possible to build additional classrooms and new school buildings. There is still a severe problem. An average of 1,713 children will enter crowded city schools each year for the next 5 years. In addition to classroom space, need for new personnel, such as lunchroom workers, clerical help, and nurses will be very great. Columbia City Schools have thus far been allocated about $7 million by the Educational Finance Commission. Allocations are per capita, based on the child population of the area. Columbia's allocation has produced 9 new schools, 14 new additions and renovations, and 12 sites for new schools. But the end is not in sight, and neither is a permanent solution either in Columbia or Abbeville. Local school officials and parents must go on working, as well as the Educational Finance Commission. The law creating the commission states specifically that schools are a joint responsibility of local school districts and the state. Chairman of the commission is the governor, George Bell Timmerman, Jr. Commission members are Dewey H. Johnson, W. Gist Fenley, L. P. Hollis, Charles P. Elliott, David W. Robinson, J.C. Long, and Jesse T. Anderson. Governor Timmerman, looking to the future in consultation with Representative James A. Spruill, Jr., had this to say.
South Carolina has made, in a minimum of time, tremendous educational progress. Progress revolutionizing school facilities and transportation for our boys and girls wherever they may live and regardless of varying economic circumstances. The magnitude of the school program required the cooperative effort of many individuals. Men like James A. Spruill, Jr. of Cheraw, Rhodes Scholar, former professor of law, and legislator. It was his keen mind that composed the principal draft of legislation under which an educational dream became a reality. It was done despite our having the 3rd lowest individual income in the nation and the 2nd largest per capita school population. Having done so much with so little in so short a time, we know we have the ability to do much more. The schoolhouse alone is not enough. The future of our children will depend upon the soundness of our educational system. The classrooms of today are molding the character of our future. In this atomic age, our rapid industrial progress is unfolding opportunities which will demand intelligently educated men and women. The greatest need is to provide our boys and girls with the best education that we can reasonably afford, an education comparable to our modern school facilities. South Carolina's revolution in school construction should be the inspiration for a renaissance in education that will constantly ensure curricula suitable to changing needs, a renaissance in education that will provide the quality as well as the quantity of teachers that we need, a renaissance that will utilize to the fullest all of our educational resources and ingenuity.
Working together during the years since the commission was created, the Educational Finance Commission and the local school authorities have given South Carolina the finest system of schools in its entire history, a record of which the state is justly proud. From the mountains to the seashore, South Carolinians are determined that this legacy must and shall be continued for these, our children.
Fascinating, and I wish that the guy, the politician at the end, who said legislator, I would love for him to go head-to-head with James Brill, Encyclopedia Britannica's narrator, on interesting pronunciations of words that we know. Thanks for tuning in today. Nathan, thank you for the $10. That was awesome. He contributed via the Super Thanks button. You can also contribute by hitting the like. You can also contribute by watching other videos on the YouTube channel. Go to ko-fi.com/avgeeks, buy us coffee, or go to patreon.com/avgeeks. And that's another way you can donate cash to us so we can buy things like scissors. There are many rooms at the AV Geeks archive, and only a small portion of them have scissors, and we're trying to put scissors in each room so that I don't pick them up and then leave them somewhere. It's all about me and how lackadaisical I am with where I put my scissors. Thanks so much. We will be back again tomorrow, Tuesday, and we'll watch some more films. It'll be great. Everybody have a great rest of your Monday, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.